2024, a year filled with political turmoil, a year of political decisions that will shape nations for decades to come. 2024 was a tumultuous year for global democracy, where a fifth of the world's population from over 70 countries headed to the ballot box. While the US saw a fiercely contested race, Europe saw a swing to the right, with far-right parties such as Marine Le Pen's National Rally emerging in the European Union polls. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka, in its first election since recovering from a financial crisis, elected its first left-leaning president. 2024 was not the year for the incumbents. Voters across the globe made their voice clear. Their message, "You're fired." From the US to Sri Lanka, Japan, France and Britain, voters tired of economic disruption and global instability rejected sitting governments and even turned to disruptive outsiders. Here's a look at some of the key elections that transformed global politics. Let's start somewhere closer home, with India. India, the largest democracy in the world and the most populous, saw Prime Minister Narendra Modi return to power for a historic third term. With the Bharatiya Janata Party-led NDA coalition securing the majority in the general elections, although with a smaller margin. Meanwhile, regional parties shone on the national stage under the India bloc. Asia saw several other crucial elections. While dynasties influenced some, many rejected the old guard. Pakistan, where despite populist leader Imran Khan being behind bars, his party, the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, won the most seats in the elections. However, after weeks of turmoil, ultimately the Pakistan Muslim League N formed the government with Shehbaz Sharif as Prime Minister. Yet in a curveball, Sri Lanka picked left-leaning National People's Power leader Anura Kumara Dissanayake as its next president, rejecting all its traditional picks. In Europe, several countries including France and UK saw the far right emerge victorious this election season. June's parliamentary elections in the 27-member European Union saw conservative populists and far-right factions challenging the ruling parties in France and Germany, the bloc's most prominent and influential nations. Meanwhile, UK's July election saw the Conservatives ousted with 14 years in office as the Labour Party swept to power in a landslide. Yet, voter turnout was at a record low in 20 years. Struggling from an economic and healthcare crisis, the country saw an emergence of the hard right party, Reform UK, led by Nigel Farage. In France too, Marine Le Pen's National Rally grew stronger, despite not being able to secure a majority. A wave of anti-incumbency also swept Africa. From South Africa to Senegal, Ghana and Botswana, all saw incumbents who have been in power for decades defeated. The most significant amongst them, the collapse of the African National Congress in South Africa. The party, once headed by Nelson Mandela, lost its majority for the first time since the end of apartheid, forcing it into a coalition with opposition parties. Meanwhile, amid wars, both Iran and Russia held polls. Iran, in a surprise move, elected a reformist president, Masoud Pezeshkian, after the death of former President Ibrahim Raisi. While Russian President Putin cemented his tight grip on power with 6 more years. However, the year's most consequential election was yet to come. After a fierce fight against Vice President Kamala Harris on everything from abortion, immigration to the economy, Donald Trump secured a landslide victory in November's US presidential elections, leaving the world on the edge for what the unpredictable America First leader will do in his second term at the White House. From his tariff threats against Canada, Mexico and India, to threatening to buy the Panama Canal and Greenland. Trump has also set the ball going.
It seems democracy's bumpy ride will continue well into 2025, with many more incumbents put to the test. From Germany's Olaf Scholz to Canada's Justin Trudeau, all heading to crucial elections where far-right opposition parties are already being favored by the voters. All eyes will be on the voters to see what they decide. Disha Bagchi for NDTV.